Okay, guys, good afternoon. This is the second lesson. This is for Tuesday because the one that I put yesterday, completing the square, that was for Monday, so the 23rd. So it's going to be for Tuesday, the 24th. Now we're going to do factoring using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is actually given to you on the region on the reference sheet. But today, before we start doing completing this, quadratic formula, we're going to review the other two steps that we have learned and how to factor. So to factor, the first time we did it was factoring, like solving using factoring. When we do this, we have to set the equation equal to 0, okay? Then we make sure we do double bubble and, identify our signs, identify our factors, and put them equal to 0 and solve. Everybody should know how to do this, right? We know that when the last term is negative, bubbles have different signs, and the larger number takes the middle sign term, or the term of the middle sign. Now, that was doing factoring. Now, we did completing the square on Monday, and to do completing the square, you have to move the constant to the other side, so you don't have to set equal to 0. So we're going to keep the original equation the way it was, okay? So when I do that, remember, we add b over 2 squared in both sides of the equation. So we substitute b by negative 4, divided by 2 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. When I do that, I added it to both sides. So at the end, when we follow the process, we come out with the same answer as before. If you notice, we get 3 and negative 3 as the roots. Okay, so we use factoring and we use computing the square, and we have the same answer. Now we're going to do using the quadratic formula, which is this formula right here. And I'm going to read it because I don't want to waste time. We have to, move on. And to do that, you have to put the equation equal to 0, because you're going to need the value of a, b, and c. Okay, I tell you right here the way you're supposed to write it. So you identify the value of a, the value of b, and the value of c. This is just for you, guys, to help you identify each value. Then when you have that, you just plug it into the equation. This minus, hold on, let me just fold this page. All right. Okay, the minus right here, that's part of the formula. You can now omit that one. Now, because b is negative 4, okay, you substitute that by negative 4, and you do plus minus, okay, radical, everything under the radical, okay, negative 4 squared, which is the value of b, minus 4, that's part of the formula too, times the value of a, which is 1, times the value of c, which is, the value, yes, a is 1, the value of c is negative 21. So when you do that, okay, you're gonna solve the top first. Don't put everything in the calculator, because you're gonna make a mistake. So if I do one step at a time, minus times minus give you plus, plus minus, negative 4 squared is 16, and if you multiply all this, negative 4 times 1 times negative 21, you get positive 86. 2 times 1 is 2. Continue solving the radicals first. That will become 100 inside the radical. And then after that, you do plus minus, because 100 is a perfect square. That's plus minus 10 divided by 2. When you have that, you're going to split the roots, okay? You're going to have the positive 10 and you're going to have the negative 10. So this 4 right here, plus 10 gives you 14, divided by 2 is 7. 4 minus 10 is negative 6, divided by 2 is negative 3. If you notice, we have exactly the same answers as the one before. So we have already 3 methods for solving quadratics: factoring, computing the square, and now the quadratic formula. You can use this for everything. The quadratic formula will help you to solve any quadratic equation, okay? So now we're going to do some extra problems. Everything is the same. Look, what I did here, I'm doing this just to help you, identifying the value of a, b, and c. Okay, hold on, let me just move this out, sorry, okay? So, let me just be careful, because I don't want to drop my phone. Okay, so here, we have the value of a, which is 1, b is negative 5, and c is positive 5. So when I identify all my values, I'm going to plug it into the equation. Same thing over and over. The minus from the formula, don't forget that, guys, okay? This is negative 5, which is the value of b, and I just plug in. When I plug everything in, all right, so you start solving. You always begin with the inside, with the radicals. So that becomes plus, right? Because minus times minus is plus, plus minus, radical 5. 5 squared is, negative 5 squared is 25. And negative 4 times 5 is negative 20. So when you solve the radical, you have radical 5. That's not a perfect square, so you're just going to leave it like that, okay? So what you do, you split it. You put 5 plus positive radical 5 divided by 2, and 5 minus radical 5 divided by 2. Here, so that will be your roots. I'm sorry, that will be your roots. Okay. Now the other one, same thing. Okay. But if you know, like I remember this, if I know this is a perfect square trinomial, so a perfect square trinomial will give me one double root. I don't probably don't remember that. You remember that, but you're gonna see it at the end when you solve the problem. So the value of A here is 1, B is negative 6, and the value of C is 9. Same thing. Plug in minus negative 6 plus minus negative 6 squared minus 4. Remember, this 4 is part of the formula. You cannot omit that. Times 1 times 9 divided by 2 times 1. Everything is the same. So when you solve this in the radical, you're going to get 36 minus 36. And if you notice here, 36 minus 36 is 0. So that will cancel out. So now you have 6 over 2. You're not going to put 6 plus minus 0 because, you know, that's going to be 6 no matter what. And it's going to be positive 6. So you eliminate all this area, all this part, and you have 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So this is only one root because it's a double root, since that's a perfect square trinomial. All right. So now let's go to the one in the back. Does anybody has a question? Very funny. Now we're going to do the one in the back. The one in the back, if you notice, the equation is not equal to 0. So what you have to do is you have to move the negative, the 1 to the other side. Oh, by the way, guys, let me go back to this one. Because this, if you notice here, also, I forgot to tell you, because that question wasn't equal to 0, so I have to move the 21 to this side to make it a negative 21. Okay, I'm sorry, you know, because if you notice, from the very beginning, that wasn't set up equal to 0, so I have to do that when I use the quadratic formula. Remember, only completing the square, you don't have to set it up equal to 0. Then again, so if I move the negative, the 1 to this side, that becomes negative. I do exactly the same thing. I identify my variables, but you know, you don't have to, but you know, just trying to help you as much as I can. Plug in, okay? The only thing is, once you solve everything, okay, you have to plug in the appropriate numbers. So if you notice this, when we solve the inside, okay, I get another perfect square because, you know, negative 1 squared is 1. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times negative 1 is positive 8. So you can go from here. So the good thing about this is that becomes a perfect square. So you will write that as x equals 1 plus minus 3 divided by 4. Then you split your roots, all right? 1 plus 3, the positive 1 first, divided by 4, and 1 minus 3 divided by 4. Once you do that, you solve. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Negative 2 divided by 4 is negative 1/2. So that will be your roots right there. The quadratic formula is easy. You just have to make sure you don't mix up the signs, okay? And the variables, because those are the more important, the values. Now the other one, same thing. The other one, if you notice, we don't have it equal to 0. So we have to move it to this side, okay? And same process, all right? A is negative 2, B is negative 5, and C is positive 1, okay? Plug into the formula, same thing. Just be careful with the sign. Minus times minus will give you a plus. Negative 5 squared is positive 25. 4, you know, and you go from there. Negative 4 times negative 2 is positive 8. 8 times 1 is 8. So, same thing. Solve the inside radicals first, right? Because negative times, also 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. So, for, you know, just to make sure that you don't forget about that. Sometimes the A value is not always 1. It can be a different number, like in the situation now it's negative 2. So when you do that, you have radical 33, and because it's not a perfect square, so you have to split them, okay? So you're going to do your positive first, all right? You go from here, x equals 5 plus radical 33 divided by 4, and 5 minus radical 3 divided by 4, and that should be your roots. Now we have 2 more, okay? It seems like I'm going a little fast, but I think this is easier than the one before because you can always take a look at the formula and everything is the same thing. Now with this one, remember, these ones, if you notice, they're incomplete quadratics because they're missing one of the terms. In this case, they're missing the linear term. That means that it's missing the x value, the x value. Because we have the x squared and we have the negative 1. The only thing you have to do is you have to set it equal to 0. Remember, you can also solve using, like plus 1, then divide by 4, and, and do the plus minus. But remember, because we're using the quadratic formula, you have to use the quadratic formula. So in this case, A is 4, B is 0, because there's no B, and C is negative 12. Once I solve, that becomes negative 12. So I don't have the value of B, I only have 8 and C. So when I substitute everything, obviously the B value is going to be 0. So if you notice, 0, 0 squared, and everything else comes from these two values right here. So at the end, you're going to realize that the 0, the number outside is going to disappear because there's no values, all right? Just 0. So continue the process. You're going to end up with plus minus radical 96 divided by 8. 96 is not a perfect square. And because they want us to round it to the nearest thousandth, which is 3 places after the decimal point, you don't have to simplify, because you can simplify that. They might ask you rather than the simple radical form, but they're telling you to do decimal, so you can do it right away. So you just put that on the calculator, radical 96 divided by 8, you're going to get positive 1.225, and you're going to get the negative side, which is going to be the opposite root. It's going to be negative. So that should be your 2 roots. And we have one more, which is basically the same thing, but in here, we're missing the constant. We don't have the value of C. The value of C in this case becomes 0. Let me just move it up a little bit. And, sorry, here, now C becomes 0. So all these things is going to disappear, because when you multiply negative 4 times 3 times 0, whatever you get here is going to be 0. So that's where the 0 comes from. Remember, the minus is from the formula. You cannot forget that. And the value of B is negative 12, so you substitute and that becomes positive. Negative 12 squared is positive 144, because negative 12 to negative 12 is positive 144, minus 0. 2 times 3 is 6, and you go from there. You see 12. That's 144 is a perfect square. So you'll do 12 plus 12, okay, divided by 6, and 12 minus 12 divided by 6. When you do the positive side, you'll get 8 as an answer, because 12 plus 12 is 8. 12 plus 12 is 24. If you divide that by 6, is actually, I made a mistake, because 24 divided by 6 is 4. And 12 minus 12 is 0, and 0 divided by 0. What did I get? 8. What did I get that from before? Because it's supposed to be 6, so it's supposed to be 4, okay? My bad, guys. You see? I also make mistakes. So I guess that should be the lesson for today. You don't, I guess, just try to do your homework. And remember, guys, what I say, okay? Please, you can do your homework on a separate piece of paper and take a picture on your camera or your telephone and just download it, to the same website. I think there's an option there that it says upload it. So just upload it there and I will be able to see your homework, okay? Some of the kids already did it. So maybe you want to communicate with your friends to see if they can show you how to do it, all right? Otherwise, thank you and have a nice Sunday. And remember, this is for the lesson for Tuesday. So I expect to get the homework Tuesday on Wednesday, all right? Thank you and have a good Sunday.